Hi guys, what an absolute mess. So on the 13th of December, an EU regulation called EU GPSR 2023/988 will come into effect. This is in regards to product safety. It applies to all non-food consumer products, including second-hand or refurbished items, and emphasises risk assessments, improved labelling, and stronger recall protocols. This will place an obligation on online marketplaces and require manufacturers to report safety incidents promptly. Like other aspects of Brexit, large companies in Great Britain will be able to get round some of these problems. However, it will pose a significant headache for small companies and producers. Here, a Unionist MP raised an extra issue of how it would impact Northern Ireland, and the Prime Minister's response was pretty poor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Friday the 13th is a date associated with bad things happening. Next Friday, the European Union's General Product Safety Regulations will apply in Northern Ireland, creating more costs and bureaucracy for English, Scottish and Welsh companies who want to do business in Northern Ireland and Northern Ireland consumers buying from them. Many businesses have already stopped supplying Northern Ireland. Haulage companies are unsure what is required of them. Online sales platforms are divided on the advice that they give. Mr. Speaker, a previous Prime Minister promised Northern Ireland businesses that if they were asked to complete additional paperwork, they should phone the Prime Minister and he would direct them to throw the form in the bin. What direct, tangible advice can the Prime Minister give to those businesses who want to continue supplying Northern Ireland?
Well, I thank you for that question. It is a serious issue, and the government is working closely with businesses to ensure that they are ready for the changes that he has identified, and we published more guidance, as he knows, yesterday to support them further. We will be keeping a close eye on the issue to help businesses trade freely across the whole of the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Okay, so that answer was completely useless because the information is not getting out to small businesses in particular. Large corporations, big suppliers, will be able to get around this problem. So what is the problem here? The problem is that the EU has introduced a new regulation to protect consumers, to allow them to have a more robust recall program, to make sure that certain products that are refurbished or modified in some way are safe for use. And these products have to follow a certain regulation. Now, because the UK is no longer a member of the European Union, but Northern Ireland is part of the single market, the Northern Ireland angle here is that if you're selling goods from GB into Northern Ireland, they have to follow this regulation. If you don't, then you risk, a fine, or you risk the product being returned or it being stopped or something. You don't want to have these problems. You want to be able to sell the goods into the single market. So as was pointed out by the Unionist MP here, certain businesses in GB have said, look, we're not going to sell into Northern Ireland, it's just too much hassle. Now, this is not the EU's fault. This is Brexit. Because if the UK had remained part of the European Union and the single market, we would not be talking about this. There would be no problem. But it's also a problem for businesses who are not selling into Northern Ireland, because if they're selling into the single market, they have to follow these new regulations. And once again, if it's a big company, it's likely they have a business or an office located in an EU country. And this is one of the requirements, it seems, that if you want to avoid a lot of these problems, it's better to have a business, an office in an EU country. This is all about protecting the single market. Now, you're going to hear from Brexiteers saying this is about punishing Britain because it had the audacity to leave. No, this is nothing about punishing anyone. This is about protecting the single market and protecting consumers in the single market. Now, Keir Starmer said, well, we're meeting with businesses. Well, what businesses? What information has been put out? Because this has been covered by a number of outlets, not significantly, unfortunately, but it has been covered, and the information that's been distributed to businesses, particularly small ones, is lacking. Now, I don't know if the new Labour government are trying to sort through the mess that the Conservatives have left behind and this has been forgotten about, or this information has not been passed on to the business secretary or whoever. But this has to be dealt with. This is, once again, a problem for businesses that are selling into the single market from GB, but also into Northern Ireland. Because the strange situation with Northern Ireland is that it's not part of the EU, but it is part of the single market when it comes to goods. So is it necessary to have an office in Northern Ireland, or is it sufficient to have an office in an EU country that would cover Northern Ireland as well? We don't actually know. This is the problem. So it seems the British government doesn't know, the EU doesn't know, nobody seems to know. Or at least this information doesn't seem to be freely available, which is, of course, a massive problem for businesses. So once again, what we're probably going to see is businesses, small businesses in particular in Great Britain, refusing to sell into Northern Ireland because it's not worth it. And you're going to hear from Brexiteers in Northern Ireland complaining the loudest about this. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.